Excellent, perfect. Well, first of all, then, just sort of start off by telling us who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and where you're currently working at.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you for the opportunity. My background, it extends an overall almost 2 years since I started with dental and 3D printing. I started off working for Accurata, a 3D printer manufacturer based out of Taiwan. It's kind of where I was introduced to both the technology and the segment, the entire industry, dental industry. Real eye-opener of what's out there. It's been quite a ride. And yeah, so that's how it started. I was privileged enough to kind of start in like a sales marketing position and grow my way up into a more sales-oriented position, looking after the reseller network at the time. In all different markets. It was covering Europe, it was covering Middle East, Asia, as well as the Americas. At the time, it was quite a small team. It was still kind of starting up phases of the company. And then, slowly took over and we grew and we expanded the teams. And as the teams expanded, my responsibility became more focused. And ultimately, at the end of my time with Accurata, I was head of operations for channel management. So this means I was looking after the European market, Middle East, Africa, and APAC with my team altogether.
Excellent. And then obviously now you've moved on to, is it CitoForma?
Yeah. So an opportunity presented itself earlier this year, and I've made the decision together with my partner to move from Taiwan back to Europe. It was time for us. We've lived quite a few years in Taiwan, and we're ready for a change. And Europe is also where a lot of the things in this industry are happening. So I find myself today in the Netherlands, well, northern part of the Netherlands, working for CitoForma. It's a group. So there are dentistry, CitoForma, and FebShop. We specialize in 3D solutions. As you can tell, this is our lab. And so I was brought on board managing their sales specifically for dentistry, for the reseller network, as well as the dental segment, helping grow there. And that's what I find myself doing here today.
Excellent. And just sort of your opinion then on the market. I know you've only been in it 2 years, and I'm sure it's changed massively since you've even started. What is your opinion on the current market then at the moment?
Well, still ever changing, and the new technologies are released pretty much on a weekly basis right now. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to learn. I think the market is adapting nicely. I think a few years ago, there were larger changes going on when the introduction of CBCTs and the X-rays, and you have gypsum and all these major changes that we had in the industry. Today, where instead of 10-year gaps between each new revelation, we're having just a couple of years. And it's great. It's fun to be part of it because it's dynamic. You get to learn these new things. You get to be in touch with people from everywhere, from every part of the world, contributing to this industry that we're all part of. And I think the market is ready. I think they've seen the changes and the new announcements that have been coming over the past 2 to 3 years, as long as I've been part of it, at least. And it's becoming more widely accepted. It's still in the infancy stages. It's still like, 3%, 4% adoption maybe, or even less actually. But you're starting to see the growth. And if my predictions are right, and the teams here and the people that I've spoken to in the industry, you're looking at massive expansion over the next 2 to 3 years. So it's a good time to be part of this
Absolutely. That sort of leads me nicely onto my next question in terms of what do you think the future of the market look like? Like you've said there's a lot of growth to be made as technology grows and develops. It's forever going to continue. But in sort of say the next sort of 2 to 3 years, where do you see your companies like yourself and the market developing to?
Well, so the company, CitoForma at the moment, what we do is we offer the opportunity for smaller resellers across Europe to be able to provide solution to their customers. This is unlike the larger depots, dental depots that you have out there, to name like Henry Schein or Patterson and things like that. We cater to the smaller mom and pop shops that are out there. So, they want to have no MOQ. They don't want to have a large investment. They just want to be able to offer the best solution, the latest technology to their customers. And we do that. whether it's through drop shipments or things like that. That's what our company does, and that's the market that I know.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about the large labs out there. I'm talking about the 5 technician labs, the clinicians out there. So to answer your question, where is the market going to be for the future and with these small mom and pop shops? I think they will adapt to the technology once they've accepted it into their workflows. I think they will only benefit. I think their sales are going to go through the roof. I think their production is going to increase tremendously, and it's just knowing how to use it and getting to familiar with the products and the solutions.
Yeah, excellent. And you've mentioned that within your market, especially at Accuetta, you worked in the sort of Americas, the EMA, Europe, and sort of really globally in a way. How do the markets differ? Sorry, because a lot of people that I speak with are Americas based, but I do also speak with people like yourself in Europe, and they are quite different in their ways, and some can be more challenging than others for sure. How do you feel that they're different, and why do you think that is?
Good question. Well, to start off, you're dealing with one huge market, the biggest market, in fact, the US, largest purchasing power. Everyone is there, and everything going on is there. And it's, in my opinion, slightly easier to work with because you have same regulations across the states. Obviously not including, Canada and Mexico and Southern America, but focusing on the US. The entry barriers are a bit lower. I think people are more willing to spend money on quality products, on new things and early adopters. So I think that's the case for the US. What I can say about Europe, the regulations are strict.
Of course.
Especially when you're dealing with medical devices, class 1, anything really. It's a bit trickier, especially with the new changes, from NDD, MDR. It takes a while. So not only the regulations are dealing with those, also European markets, you're dealing with different, shipping and customs and tariffs and regulations per country sometimes. Anything outside of the EU, and there's several within the region that we still want to cater to and want to be able to supply solutions. You need to be adaptive. You need to be able to understand where they're coming from. Why are they using their own forwarder? Why do they need this document? Why do they need this approval? It really is. It needs to be a personal experience with each reseller that you have contact with. And when it comes to the customers as well, with end users, whether it's a lab or a clinic, they have different requirements. Some are looking for the best quality. Some are looking for the best price, ease of use. It really ranges. So when it comes down to it, to the end users, you really need to understand where they're coming from, what their struggles are, and you're offering them the solution. They don't care what they use to get that final solution. They don't care if it's that printer or that printer. As long as they can get that final application to be able to treat their patients safely, responsibly, relatively not too exuberant amount of money, they'll be okay with whatever you have to provide.
No, for sure. It's very interesting, isn't it, how it works differently. Like you say, with Europe, you've got so many different countries with different regulations and different laws that makes it that one step more of a challenge. And I think when it comes to the US, like you say, because everything's all under one rule and one ruling, it makes it far easier in that sense. But that always makes me question. You see a lot of companies come from Europe and Asia and struggle in the US. And vice versa, US companies going to Europe and struggling. Do you think that's just because they're not used to operating in different ways?
Could be. I think the way business is done in different regions, it really differs. It also is a matter of what you're bringing to the table and what you're willing to compromise on. And some companies are willing to take the extra step of hiring a local team who know what they're dealing with and know the local market. But in some cases, that's not true. I know a lot of Asian companies, mostly manufacturers, that want to enter these markets, whether it's Europe or US, and they struggle because even though their product is superior and their prices are lower, they just don't have that mentality of how to promote their products to the local market or how to deal with business there. But you're seeing this change as well. To be fair, I mean, a lot of these companies are now hiring local teams to be able to deal with the local businesses.
No, of course. I think that is the main thing, is hiring that local team that knows the business and knows the market, and that's how you in turn succeed. One thing you've mentioned as well, CitoForma is 3D solution. Now, a lot of people, when they see 3D, just presume it's a 3D printer. They don't understand the whole concept of solutions and what everything happens. Tell me more about your solutions and sort of and what they are and why they sort of differ from the actual 3D printer itself.
How much time do we have?
It could be a long conversation.
Yeah, if just where to start. Well, look, it's a lot about education, right?
Yeah, of course.
With new technologies, you're offering essentially better, more efficient, cheaper, everything improved and enhanced to get this essentially similar results, right? If it's a denture that was created, way back when, compared to how it's created now, it's an improvement in a way. But to get that improved product and to the workflow, you need to learn it. So some workflows, if it's a model, for example, just a basic, if it's for an aligner or study model, relatively easy to learn. But once you get into the more biocompatible resins and materials, it becomes a bit trickier because you need to be able to design it properly. You don't want to put the patient at risk. And the workflows are a bit more strict because of what it is, creating a medical device. So basically what you asked when it comes to, is it just a printer? No, it's definitely not just a printer. If you simply buy a printer, you put it in your lab, you put it in your clinic, you press print, it'll come out for sure. You're going to get a product, but it's not the final product. There are several steps from A to Z, whether it's getting the first scan, what used to be the impressions, now you use an iOS. From the iOS, you move to the CAD, and then from the CAD, you need to move to the printer or slicer, and then printer, and then cleaning and post-processing, polishing, glazing. It's not just a printer. So there's a lot more education that needs to be done in the current market and what we're dealing with. We see this across the board with manufacturers doing webinars, doing courses, organizations. I know, to name a few, MOD, the IDDA. These people, they know what these products can offer the customers and labs and clinicians, and they're just trying to do their best to get the information out there, the education out there, and to provide better solutions and better care for patients across the globe.
Yeah, I think education's huge, isn't it? And it's something that I've spoke to many people about, is the lack of education around 3D printing. I think I was speaking to one of my candidates the other day, and they mentioned that a lot of dentists, they'll have a sprint ray machine, but they might not even know what it does, for example, or a Formlabs or whatever, and all these printers out there, that they need to be more educated, I think, for sure, and that in turn will end up selling more. And I think as technology develops, you're seeing some printers able to get rid of the dental polishing, so it does it all in one. And then I know there's talk of potentially printers trying to make implants, which if that happens, that's sort of next level. And education is so important that I think people are lacking. In terms of what you guys do, is that something you're going to really prioritize, is the education going forward, to make sure people understand really what it is your product is?
Absolutely. So to add to your point, like implants and also direct aligners. So imagine the potential of skipping an entire step of creating a model to thermoform an aligner and just printing the aligner directly from the printer. Like, that is happening, that we're seeing the technology evolve, and to be able to cut out that step means not only is it easier for the production steps for the consumer, but also imagine the sustainable impact, the environmental impact this has, because you're cutting out, if let's say there's a production of 6 million, 10 million aligners a year, some labs, they definitely reach those numbers. You cut out that middle phase of 6 to 10 million models. That's a lot of resin that's not being used. That's a lot of eco-friendliness going on. So it's you were really trying to advance that in one regard. To answer your question, yes, we are focusing on education. We're doing this in a couple of ways. One is we're teaming up with local clinics and labs to be able to provide case studies for these solutions. So we find a lab or a clinic that we like, we provide them with the product, whether it's an entire 3D solution, we can provide them free resin. And then based off of the case study that they provide us data, and we were able to publish this and show future customers and what was done. We're also very picky with who we work with in regards to our manufacturers, our suppliers. So Accureta, for example, which I'm familiar with, they are very proactive with their education. They work hard to providing the best webinars, the best KOLs. They have a vast system, a network across the world of the leading KOLs in the industry to be able to provide exactly how to use the solution, what can be done, and just the education that is required to get the word out there of this new technology.
Yeah, excellent. In terms of yourself then and your background, I think you mentioned that only been in the industry 2 years. I think so to where you are now, you've really rose quite quickly in terms of going to head of operations at Accureta to moving now to Netherlands and taking on this role to help build and develop this team. Obviously now that's the main focus, but where do you see yourself going in terms of your career and what are the end goals?
That's not one of the questions you asked me. You sent me before this. So yeah, I love this industry. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for it. I really thoroughly enjoy what I do. It's dynamic, like I said earlier. You learn new things every single day.
Yeah.
Unlike my previous role, now I have more contact with end users, which is priceless information and experience to know what their struggles are and to know how to provide the best patient care. And what I see myself in a couple of years, I don't know, continuously being challenged with new moves and relocations and new companies and just markets, and I don't know, seeing what else is out there, what other technologies, because I heard a lot about SLM, so metal printing, jet fusion, technologies that I'm not currently working with, even though we do have a large industrial segment that we care for. It's not my focus, but I am learning about it, and I think it'll be fantastic what the things you can do later on with this technology, or already can. I don't know.
Big question.
A very big question. Yeah.
Very big question. You don't have to finish it. But no, on sort of a final note, and one thing I did sort of mention, but we'd speak about is tips for people entering the market. Yourself been it 2 years, quite relatively new. Have you got any tips for anyone that's entering this space that might be unsure of to join, or if they have joined, struggling on really how they can succeed?
Well, first of all, is always keep an open mind, learn new things, be on top of it, really, like, subscribe to all the big outlets for this news, the information, keep updated with the latest and greatest. Then go to shows. I know I realize that not everyone is privileged enough to be in a position to go to international shows, but that's the way I learned. I've been to Dubai and IDEC, I've been to Turkey and IDEX, I've been to IDS, I'm going to Formnext soon. What else? London show. Get out there. See what's been going on, meet people, talk to them, bring up new ideas, question everything, and just gain the knowledge. To be honest, my first week starting off in Accureta, I was literally summarizing TSDSs, safety data sheets for resins, to understand what was in this thing. And that helped me understand the technology of what goes into being able to print a denture or a crown from this liquid. Like, how does that happen? So just be knowledgeable, just be up to date, basically.
No, great. And just sort of going off on a tangent then, obviously that was meant to be the last question, but you mentioned trade shows, and that sort of comes on nicely to quite a lot of things that I'm doing at the moment when I'm having conversations. Is trade shows are so important for education at times, and I think especially the IDS and the really big ones in Europe. But when I do speak to people, they from a buyer's perspective and a selling point, they don't seem to be doing so well. Do you think trade shows will sort of die off in terms of the selling, but become more of educational events?
They should. I think they should. I think the idea of going out to a trade show to sell something is dying off because, first of all, the expenses on a trade show are exuberant.
Of course.
But once you get to the gist of it all, you're meeting industry people, industry leaders. You're exposed to this plethora of technology that's out there that some you're not aware of. But walking the floor, seeing these booths, seeing these people, these companies, and what they can do, I mean, it's just fascinating. And I think that's what trade shows are becoming. And again,
absolutely.
I've been here quite a limited time, I realize, but that's the experience I have so far. I've just been able to learn so much. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's always great to get out there and see it in face to face, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's great. It's how my network has been growing and just keeping in touch with different people. I mean, it's priceless.
Excellent. And well, that's sort of the list of questions that I